Hello, everyone. My name is Carol McClellan, and I'm here today to speak on methods in GIS to score biophilic urban developments in cities. So a little bit about myself to begin with. I work for a consulting firm called RWDI that's based out of Canada. That was started back in the 1970s by the four devilishly handsome gentlemen in the front of this picture here, Rowan, Williams, Davies, and Irwin. We originally started up as a wind and snow loading agency, and over the last almost 50 years, we've expanded out to have global presence, a number of offices located worldwide, and we also study a number of different things, including environmental things such as air quality and noise, building performance, do LEED and WELL accreditations, among many other things. Now, our projects range in geographic scale from everything from a regional scale study all the way down to individual occupant experience within buildings. And what we've noticed over the last number of years is that what we're seeing in our client designs more and more is the fact that they're implementing biophilic elements in their designs. So why is this happening? What is biophilia and biophilic elements? And why does it matter to the urban environment? So biophilia is a term that was originally coined by biologist E.O. Wilson back in the 80s that refers to the innate and genetically determined love for the natural world felt universally by mankind. So it's basically people's love of other living things such as plants and animals. So why is it so much more important nowadays? Well, historically, populations were more rurally based, and so the connection with nature was more inherent in everyday life. Over the last 100 years, we've seen migration into urban centers, cities exploding, and urban populations following suit. As a result, that inherent connection to nature has become more and more disrupted, which is problematic for a number of different reasons. A lot of recent studies have shown a number of great benefits that can be realized from maintaining a regular connection with nature. In particular, by maintaining at least about approximately 5 to 10 hours of direct connection with nature per week, people can realize and maintain these benefits. So how do we get better at ensuring our urban populations are maintaining this connection with nature? Well, at the city scale, we can ensure that we are putting money into and design consideration into maintaining our parks in good quality. At the community scale, we want to make sure that we're protecting our urban canopy and implementing, adding gardens and natural materials to our designs. And even at the building scale, we want to ensure that biophilia is incorporated right into buildings themselves. So what are the benefits of some of the benefits of biophilia? So there's many. Some of them include environmental benefits, such as an increase in urban biodiversity, a decrease in air pollution, as well as natural stormwater management solutions. Socially, there's an increased sense of community and social cohesion, increased feelings of generosity, and decreased loneliness. Medically, it tends to increase physical activity trends, which in turn leads to decreases in obesity, sleep disorders, heart rate, stress, and depression. From a cognitive perspective, people have an easier time recovering from serious trauma, such as PTSD. It also increases self-esteem, has restorative effects on cognitive abilities, which contributes to more creative and clear thinking. From an economic standpoint as well, developers and cities are realizing the benefit of increased land value and increase in tourism. Furthermore, biophilia also has a lot of mitigative effects on some of the negative impacts of urban life. Again, mitigating poor air quality and environmental noise, mitigation of urban wind accelerations that can create hazardous conditions for pedestrians, increases the resiliency of cities, decreases urban island effects, mitigates the effects of climate extremes, such as extreme heat and extreme cold. It has also been found to actually have impact of decreasing crime rates in areas where biophilic projects have been implemented, which is mostly attributed to the fact that there's an increase in informal surveillance. Furthermore, poor or vulnerable populations have been found to reap the biggest benefits from biophilic programming. As such, it's being realized as an equalizer for socioeconomic disparities in health and well-being. So it's no wonder why a number of cities are jumping on board with programs such as Tim Beatley's biophilic.cities.org and taking the pledge to become a biophilic city. So this is where geodesign comes into play. We looked to build a way of scoring biophilic elements in design. And by implementing the geodesign framework, we are finding ways to put together all the information that we need and iterate through this process in order to help people score how good their biophilic design projects are. So in the next part of the presentation, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cycling through this methodology at different scales. First, I'll start at the city scale, I'll move down to the community scale, and then finally go to the building scale. So here, we are going to have a look at Washington, D.C. as a sample city. So what I did primarily to start out building this methodology was I pulled in a number of different layers from their open data catalog that are considered biophilic layers. So that includes things such as parks, water bodies, etc. By laying those all together, we kind of create an inventory of their biophilia in the city that's already existing. Next, I applied a hexagon tessellation at approximate radius of 300 meters. Now, this distance is considered by the biophiliccities.org to be an accessible distance, and it's approximately equivalent to a 5-minute walk. So we want to do some very simple things first off. So we want to get an idea of, okay, how many of these hexagons, intersect or actually are within 300 meters of biophilic features. So by doing a simple spatial selection, we can isolate all the hexagons. So this doesn't give us very much information. It's showing that, okay, Washington has a lot of biophilia, but how do we drill into this a little bit further and gain a little bit more understanding? And this is where we can kind of use these hexagons to create kind of a multi-criteria analysis that's as flexible as we need it to be. So we might want to consider, well, where are people located within the city? And are those people, are the clusters of people actually have good access to biophilia? So by normalizing this to our hexagon grid again, and then laying features over top of it and doing spatial selections again, we can get a sense of how much of our population actually has direct or easy access to these things, such as national parks. And here we can see that 53% of the population within Washington actually is within that 300-meter distance. Furthermore, we can create as many different criteria that we want to apply into this analysis. So for example, here what I've done is I've taken a number of the negative impacts of urban life, and I've layered them together. So that includes traffic count, median income, and crime count. And I've created, by weighting those and then adding them up together, I can create a biophilic opportunity score map, like the one on the right here. So the darker the color and the higher the score, the more potential opportunity or benefit to implementing biophilic programs or policies in these areas. So next, at the community scale, we're going to take a look at San Francisco. San Francisco's been coming up a little bit in the other presentations, but San Francisco seems to be doing a lot of great work. It's another biophilic city that's taken the pledge to try to promote biophilia within the city, and they have a number of different programs that they're currently implementing. So in this particular case, we're going to have a look at one of the neighborhoods within San Francisco called Outer Sunset, which is located on the West Coast. And again, I've pulled in a number of their different feature layers that are available in their open data catalog together in order to perform the evaluation. Again, by applying hexagons, this time I've tightened those hexagons down to a 50-meter radius, and that is equivalent to a half of a block or a 1-minute walk in this case. So we want to look at a tighter dimension because it's a smaller scale. So here what I've done is I've done some spatial joins and some calculations in order to come up with a score of these hexagons using the density of street trees that occur within those hexagons, the amount of parkland that occurs within those hexagons, and that creates our initial score. What we can do with this is we can actually evaluate some of the different programs that they're putting in place, such as the Green Connections Network. So this network is a number of street connectors that San Francisco is focusing on to try to create, try to implement traffic calming measures that include a lot of biophilic elements to them to encourage pedestrian and cyclist traffic between their major parklands. So we can use these green connection networks as another biophilic feature in our scoring, and ultimately upgrade our biophilic score. Furthermore, we might want to look at that network against other variables, such as population again, and get an idea of how many people within that community are going to directly benefit from these routes. At the 50-meter distance, which is about 16% of the population here, and if we scale that out by one more hexagon, it increases to 42%. So you can also imagine how we could easily add additional routes and reevaluate and evaluate them over and over again and iterate through to determine where we might want to add additional connectors here. So finally, I'm going to look at the building scale. So here we're going to be focusing on Singapore. And this particular project that my firm was actually involved with is the Capita Green building in Singapore, which includes a number of biophilic elements in its design. So for example, the facade is a unique double glass panel facade that has a 2-foot gap between that actually has sky gardens planted in between it. It also has a number of different outdoor terraces and a rooftop garden and this interesting sculpture on the roof as well that's actually designed to capture wind and pull it down through a cooling void in the center of the building to help mitigate heat. So here what we can do is we can actually, again, at this scale, we can look at things such as how well are those biophilic elements in the building design actually performing? Do people have good access to these? So here what I've done is I've taken a proposed office layout of one of the 40 floors of office space that are in the building, and I've digitized in where the permanent workstations are, as well as the biophilic elements, such as the windows that allow natural light in, and those facade sky gardens. What I can do is I can use some of the tools in the ArcGIS toolbox to do some things such as determine the distance of those workstations from our biophilic elements. So here we're looking at the workstation to window and workstation to sky garden distances. Again, by implementing our hexagon tessellation, this time scaling it down again to a 5-meter distance, we can come up with a map of that office layout and determine where are we doing really well by getting those workstations to maximize the benefits from those biophilic elements, and where could we be doing better. So this, in turn, allows our designers to have some options of how they can either move around the layout of that office or implement additional biophilic elements in order to make sure that the benefits are reaped a little bit more in a balanced fashion. So what have we learned altogether by looking into building this scoring methodology? So there's a big focus on there should be a focus on driving the incorporation of biophilic elements in urban design. It's becoming more and more important as populations are becoming more and more urban. The scoring methodology can be used at all scales and using as many different criteria and weighting and as evaluation parameters as needed for the project at hand. By scoring different options, we can avoid poor or ineffective design decisions and promote the best options for design. And we can help create the most effective and enjoyable urban designs while minimizing project cost and maximizing end value to the occupants. We can also help with the development and assessment of new policies and how well or if they meet their objectives. So with that, I'd like to say thank you, and I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues Duncan and Elaine for their help with this.